Hello everyone, this is ScreenJunkies News. I'm Alicia Malone, joined by Roth Cornett. Now we want to talk about some big news that kind of caused outrage on Twitter and many news outlets over the weekend involving the 1972 classic film Last Tango in Paris. So basically what happened was this 2013 interview from the director Bernardo Bertolucci resurfaced, and it had in the clip him talking about this particular scene, which is very famous in the movie, where Marlon Brando, who was 48 at the time, and Maria Schneider, who was 19 at the time, had simulated sex, but they used butter as a lubricant. And that was Marlon Brando's idea to do that. It wasn't in the script. Maria was surprised by it. And Bertolucci, in his interview, had no remorse about it, and he said that he wanted to get a genuine surprise from her as a girl and not as an actress. So, of course, rightly so, people were upset about this. There were some reports about saying that it was actual rape and et cetera, et cetera. So we wanted to talk about that and clear it all up. Roth, first off, I mean, it's just sickening to hear any kind of assault happen on a film in the name of art.
Yeah, it is, and what's confusing is that at the time, this film was sort of intended to depict sex in a way that was far more raw and visceral and violent.
Graphic,
and graphic than what had been seen previously. It's known for that. And directors, we've talked about this a little bit before, directors notoriously push their actors in emotionally manipulate their actors, right, in ways that are borderline abusive, right? Frequently enough, we talked about some famous cases, sort of Stanley Kubrick on The Shining,
Shelley
Duvall,
where he made her do that baseball bat scene 127 times.
And another famous example is certainly Alfred Hitchcock and most of his ladies, but certainly Tippi Hedren, who he had do the bird scene in The Birds where she was getting attacked by real birds over and over and over again. When it crosses into a sexual scenario, though, is I think where we feel really like there has to be a definitive line, because that person, even if it's not a sexually violent scene, if it's just a lovemaking scene, it's a very vulnerable position for both actors.
Yeah.
And he actually has come out to talk about it a little bit today.
Yeah, so he issued a statement talking about the outrage that happened over the weekend. And he said, "We wanted her spontaneous reaction to the improper use of the butter. That's where the misunderstanding lies. Someone thought and thinks that Maria had not been informed about the violence on her. That is false. The only novelty was the idea of butter." So what he's saying is, she knew that there would be a sex scene that would be quite forceful. It was in the script, but she had no idea that Marlon Brando's character was going to be using butter. And she has spoken about, for many years, she unfortunately passed away in 2011, but she spoke about, even in 2007, about the scene. She said she was humiliated and she felt a little raped by doing that because she was caught off guard. It was Marlon Brando's idea. She forgave Marlon Brando. She never forgave Bertolucci. And after that movie, because it was so famous and it was received both controversially and both held up as a classic, and she is, stripped naked emotionally and literally in the film. And she said after that, she was never the same, because she felt like the whole world had seen her, and she was 19 and she didn't know what she was doing. And at the time she said she wishes she had brought in a lawyer to defend her rights, but she didn't know.
Yeah.
She didn't know at all.
Well, and think about, even now, you're working with Bertolucci, right? And a legendary director. This is your opportunity. You're so young. You're trying to build a career. You're going to want to, there's such a pressure to play nice in the entertainment industry for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Especially her. Talk about a vulnerable position. One of the things that we wanted to clear up, though, as well, is that there was no penetration.
No. Apparently Bertolucci did want actual sex in the movie, but it never happened. It's simulated.
Yeah, simulated. But still, that is a very vulnerable position to be in. And two things strike me about this is that, like you say, she talked about this for quite a while, and no one listened. It wasn't until the interview with the director resurfaced that people started to listen. And then there's this ongoing question about separating the artist and the art. Like, do you feel differently about the film now?
I do, and I have to say, I spoke about this film many times because it is one of my favorite Marlon Brando performances. He's brilliant in the movie, and him and Alfred Hitchcock are my two biggest art versus artist struggles, because Marlon Brando had a lot of tragedy in his life. He did a lot of horrible things as well. Alfred Hitchcock we spoke about, and they have such brilliant work that I love. Now I'm not going to be so comfortable watching that film. I don't know if I can. I don't know. It makes me feel sick, and it's hard to recommend it, even though I would have, even a little while ago, because it is such a brilliant movie for many, many reasons, but that has definitely tainted it. And it's also interesting, the reason why this interview resurfaced from 2013 from Bertolucci is that a Spanish non-profit picked up a little bit of that interview, using it for the International Day Against Violence towards Women, and adding Spanish subtitles. So then Spanish news outlets caught onto it, then English outlets followed. But it is a shame that it's taken so long to have this level of outrage. It is kind of the culture at the moment, though.
It is, and that's one of the other things that I think that can be highlighted from this is that two things. One, I think that the response, Chris Evans came out and tweeted about this, Jessica Chastain talked about this, rightfully so. I think it's important for all of us, because we are such a immediately reactive culture because of social media, and that's just sort of the language we speak now, to slow down and get the context to things. It's hard to do that. I certainly retweeted what Chris Evans said and was equally horrified, but it is important to have the full context, which isn't to dismiss anything at all that has happened here, and what she said and the importance of it. But the second thing is, I do think it is one of the biggest challenges that I have found too with certain filmmakers about when and where do I set, because I grew up on Alfred Hitchcock. I had no idea he was one of my favorite directors. I was so informed. I've seen all of his films. And then to hear about what happened with Tippi Hedren and his other leading ladies, you just kind of don't know what to do. And poor actors, look, they have a lot going for them. Famous people, we're not feeling sorry for, the famous people in the world. But they're so emotionally vulnerable. That's their job. And so to add to that, and it's not just female actors. I've heard plenty of cases where directors emotionally manipulate the male actors too. There does seem to be a line that ought to be drawn, but particularly when it comes to sex and a sexually explicit scene, you have to be so gentle and careful and thoughtful, because that can slip into abuse like that. And I used to, when I was young, I was an actor and I did a couple of scenes, confession time, and nothing weird. But
Don't Google.
But I will say that no matter what, in the very best of circumstances, even if you're with somebody that's very careful and loving and gentle, the director, and thoughtful, you feel vulnerable.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't imagine. I'm not an actor. I'm not a filmmaker. I don't make movies. But as a film lover, in my opinion, no art is worth destroying someone's life over.
No.
Or making someone feel humiliated on set.
No.
No matter what kind of reaction you get, it's the Laurence Olivier quote, just try acting, my dear boy.
Try acting, my dear boy. He said that.
Like, can you just have that distance? Method actors are brilliant, but really, do we have to go this far with directors pushing the boundaries? Again, I'm not an actress at all, but it certainly didn't sit well with me, this news.
Not at all. And Laurence Olivier, just so you guys know, if you don't know, said that to Dustin Hoffman, a Marathon Man, when Dustin Hoffman had stayed up for, I think, 36 hours, because his character was supposed to be up for 36 hours. And Laurence Olivier just looked down his nose, try acting, dear boy.
Love that.
But that's funny. This is like, get permission before you do anything with your actors.
Absolutely.
Be respectful of their humanity before your art.
Absolutely. Well, Roth Cornett, thank you so much for joining me and talking about this. Now, if you want to see more from Screen Junkies News, you just need to click over there. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and also follow us on Twitter at SJ News. We'll see you soon.